And hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, guys. I'm so glad this morning that I'm not Sam Ehlinger. Man, holy God, what an absolute nightmare for him yesterday.
I think someone on the show by the name of Chris Curtis used him as an example of how at any moment any quarterback can step in. This was during the time that Curtis was advocating for Zappy Hour, and can step in and replace even the great Matt Ryan. And that doesn't always work, Boomer.
Yeah, he's going to wake up this morning. He's going to have welts all over his body. It's not just the sacks, but it's also the quarterback hits. And I felt bad for the kid. He has no business being on the field. I'm not really sure what the Indianapolis Colts are doing. But for the Patriots, it's not really, who you play. It's when you play them. That's the old adage in the NFL. And most games are lost. They're not really won. And I don't really necessarily know that Indianapolis had any shot yesterday at all. As soon as the first play was off and running, that game was, from an offensive perspective for Indianapolis, that game was over.
So as we sit here this morning, 5-4, what is this Patriots team?
I think they're a really good they remind me a little bit of the Jets. I mean, they're a really good defensive team. They can stop pretty much any offense. I think the defenses have gotten better, believe it or not, in the NFL over the first 8 weeks of the season. This is a team that's going to hold the opponent to usually under 24 points. And as long as the quarterback and the offense get cranking, then they're going to have a chance to win. It's like I was saying, most games are lost as opposed to won. So that means if the quarterback is not turning the ball over, if Zach Wilson's not throwing interceptions and Mac Jones is not throwing interceptions, more often than not, because of the way that their teams play, they're going to win. I don't know where essentially right now the Patriots, if the playoffs were today, I think they might just be on the outside looking in. But nonetheless, they got the Jets. I guess their next game, both the Jets and them are going on to their bye. And that will really be a telltale sign as to who either of these teams are because, the Jets yesterday finally played a solid football game offensively. Zach Wilson only made one mistake yesterday. And lo and behold, they beat the number one offense and number one defense in football. So I think a really, really interesting matchup coming up Sunday, November 20th.
Boomer, I think now midway through the season, I think we kind of know what this Patriots team, and you kind of hit the nail right on the head. This is a team that's going to play defense, and, you just ask your quarterback not to make mistakes. Offensively, you're not going to get much out of them in the passing game. The question is that good enough to get you to the point where you can make a real run at it, or is it just...
You mean in the future?
Yeah, well, yeah, in the playoffs and that kind of thing, or is it something that's just sooner or later it's going to catch up with you?
I look at their schedule, and, if they beat the Jets in New England, they got to go to Minnesota, and then they have Buffalo at home. And then after that, it's Arizona, Vegas. They got Miami and Buffalo again at the end. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. That's the way I look at it right now. If I had to be really, really, honest, which I always try to be here on this particular program, I would say it's going to be tough for them. I mean, they have to get more out of their passing game. I mean, it's still a quarterback league. It's still a quarterback-driven league. And while I'm sure Bill Belichick loves a game like yesterday, it's a Bill Belichick special. Everybody's going to run the ball, and the game's going to be over in about 2 hours and 45 minutes. Everybody's going to go home, and he's going to win. I mean, that's basically the recipe for the way he's going to run this team. They just don't have enough explosive plays offensively. I don't think the play with the top echelon of this league when they're all healthy and they're playing at the top of their game. So I still, halfway point essentially. They're 5-4. It's been more defense than it has been offense. They've gone through their adversity already, and hopefully when they come back, everybody will be healthy and we'll see a much better passing game than we've seen the last 3 to 4 weeks.
Boomer, you bring up Vegas, who they have to see later on in the season. Is Josh McDaniels' job in jeopardy? We've talked about that on the show, but everyone tells me, well, he has some leash because he's in his first season there. For me, I think that he's in the hot seat. He might be the number one coach in the hot seat.
Well, my buddy Frank Reich might be that way in Indianapolis right now, too. You have impetuous owners. You have owners that have spent a lot of money. Owners can count. They can count to 22 because they want to make sure that, you have the right amount of guys on the field when you're playing. And they also can see empty seats, and they can walk over to the business side of the building. And the business side of the building can say, we're having a hard time with sponsorships and skyboxes. I don't necessarily think that that's the case in Vegas right now. They did give Derek Carr a contract extension. I'm not so sure that that's a great fit right now, the way that he's playing and the way that the team looks. Josh has got his hands full. They have a terrible defense. They're the opposite, I think, of what New England is and what the Jets are. Their quarterback should be better, and they should be getting more out of their offense, but their defense is putting them in so many holes that Derek Carr and this offense are just not good enough, to get over the hump. So I would think that there are going to be major changes there. I just don't think that Mark Davis is going to want to eat another contract, and I think he's going to at least give Josh McDaniels, I would think, another year to get this thing straightened out.
Scheim and I get annoyed at those who use the commutative property of football rule, which essentially would be we are the Patriots, we beat the Jets, who then beat the Bills yesterday, so therefore we can beat the Bills. What's going on with the Bills right now?
Well, yesterday Josh Allen said it best. When your quarterback plays like bleep, you're not going to win in this league because it's too hard. And yesterday he had a terrible game. He threw a really bad interception. I don't know if you saw it in the first half on their first drive, and he just threw it right to Jordan Whitehead. And it was just, I can't explain it. He did the same thing last week on the goal line. And these are two games back-to-back where he has decent numbers and everything looks good, but he's had a couple of key mistakes, and he should have thrown a third interception that went right through the hands of one of the safeties of the Jets yesterday, too, late in the game. So they were lucky that this game wasn't worse than it really was. I think there's a little bit of complacency that may be setting in, but maybe this also could be a good wake-up call for them as well. Yesterday, they also were missing, I think, 3 defensive starters, and the most important one being Matt Milano, their middle linebacker, who makes all their calls and makes all their tackles at the second level. And him missing yesterday allowed the Jets to run the ball effectively.
Did you agree with that non-pass interference call at the end of that game?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get a sense. I don't know if you guys feel this way. I kind of feel like the referees are letting the DBs actually fight for the ball now. And, you could have we could have called, I think it was Gabriel Davis on the last play of that game. He actually pushed off on Sauce Gardner, too. So I kind of like the fact that they're letting them play a little bit more, and it makes it a little bit more interesting of a game as opposed to always throwing the flags.
Boomer, I don't know how much you really got to focus in on the New England game, but I think the one thing that I've kind of noticed from Mac, and I don't know if you've ever been in this situation before, I feel like mentally he's kind of lost some confidence because of all the stuff that's going on around him, and he's just not taking those chances no more. He's not as accurate. Do you notice that from him, or have you ever been in that situation where you have to try to find and build that confidence back up because of a situation outside of the game that might have affected you on the field?
100%, Wiggy, 100%. He's still a young man, and he's dealing with all the adversity that, you want to see a quarterback to be able to come through. I said yesterday on the NFL Today that I wanted to look at the 4 first-round draft picks from the 2021 draft going into yesterday's games and see how they bounce back and see whether or not they can truly be the leaders of their football team. All of them really haven't played that many games when you think about it, and they really haven't gone through just enough negative to be able to find out whether or not they could be standing on the other side of it. And, yesterday Trevor Lawrence played well. Zach Wilson played well. Justin Fields looks like a bullet train. He's obviously turning the corner out in Chicago. And then there's Mac, and Mac is the one that led his team to the playoffs last year. And I would say, yes, there's no question that his confidence has been shaken. But again, it's a teaching moment for Coach Belichick and for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. I mean, they got to find out whether this kid has got I guess you want to say balls of steel. That's the only best way I could play it. And
see, Boomer, the thing is, my colleagues have been awash with negativity about Mac Jones for weeks. Wiggy, Courtney, Scheim, all they say that going into this week, it was, is it possible that he's not going to turn the ball over? He didn't turn the ball over yesterday. So you got what you wanted,
right? But
you still can't say a kind word about the man. Boomer says that the guy has a high ceiling, right, Boomer?
I feel that way. Courtney,
Boomer.
Courtney, you surprised me, Courtney. Really, honestly, that
well,
that
I saw
hurts me to my
Zappy,
core.
and I had stars in my eyes when he got into the game, and I said, well, let's ride this guy instead of going with lackluster Mac.
First of all, I would choose my words maybe a little differently, Courtney.
Oh, trust me, you should hear the drops.
Exactly. Okay. But I would think, look, it takes. I'm telling you guys, they're still learning. They're still dealing with all of this. Mac's a good player. Can he be Tom Brady? I don't think so. You guys have been spoiled for 20 years. You saw the greatest player of all time, and yet, by the way, the greatest player of all time did it again yesterday, and he's continuing to do it. So I don't think the comparisons, because of the overwhelming sense of Tom Brady-itis that you all suffer from up there, is really fair to attach those feelings to Mac Jones. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Question of the week for Boomer is brought to you by McFarland Energy, the always reliable HVAC and home oil delivery pros at McFarlandEnergy.com. Speaking of veteran quarterbacks, is Aaron Rodgers doing damage to his legacy?
God, I'll tell you what, man, he looked terrible yesterday. Oh, my God. I mean, we were all sitting there saying, what is going on with him? And I know that he's not playing with, top-end wide receivers, but, man, he underthrew guys yesterday to the point where it was like we thought there was something wrong with him. We thought he got hurt or something. And then after the game, there was no discussion of that. Legacy, I still say he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. That's never going to change. He's going through probably his worst year ever as a starting quarterback. There are a lot of factors to that. But I think I would say legacy now. I don't think he's hurting that. I just think right now his reputation and the way that he carries himself over the last, 7 to 8 to 9 months, especially with the vaccine stuff last year and the McAfee show now and some of the quirky things that he's done, that's probably made more of us scratch our heads about his present state of mind than anything else.
While it's been a tough go for Brady recently, yesterday you brought it up, the end of that game. Is that what he needs to turn this thing around, ending like that?
They have the worst rushing team since the 1946 Detroit Lions, which is amazing. So they don't even try to run it, and he's throwing the ball like 55 times a game. And one of the reasons why I think they won yesterday is that if you looked at the pass rush of the Rams, it really started to dwindle in the fourth quarter. And he's had like 7 or 8 drops yesterday on top of it. The one thing I will say, and I would say this to all young quarterbacks, if you watch his games right now, he's doing exactly what he should be doing in terms of helping his offensive line. He's getting rid of the ball in less than 2.5 seconds. And then as the game goes on, the rush slows down, and then he can survey the field a little bit more. I'm thinking, and I don't know if you guys are thinking this, I'm thinking he's playing again next year. I mean, all right, the divorce is final. There's nobody in my ear telling me to retire now.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think he's going to play again.
Yeah, he's either going to San Francisco or Miami.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting. He's not going to Miami. I could see San Francisco maybe. I mean, if he goes to Miami, he's going to go as a part owner or maybe run the team. But then again, he's got that $375 million contract with Fox. My God, it just does it ever end?
Nope.
He's got to run it back to us and retire with us.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And get up at 4, whatever time you guys get up. I get up 4 in the morning. Get up at 4 in the morning and do this for a living. That's real work.
I agree. All right. Before you go, what's on a non-football topic? What is the reaction to Ime Udoka down there?
Yeah, it's weird, man. I think there are a lot of people down here, including me, that do not believe that he should be the next head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, simply because the Boston Celtics suspended him for a year. He should be suspended for a year. He obviously did something wrong in their eyes. I do have friends within that organization, and I know that a number of people in there are disgusted that he may have a chance to be on the sideline for the Nets this year, which would really be disappointing to a lot of people. So, but again, down here, I don't know what to make of basketball. There are people down here that are actually supporting Kyrie Irving and nonsense that he put out and everything that he's been through. And then I see Floyd Mayweather last night on TikTok supporting Kyrie Irving. I'm like, what the hell is this world coming to, honestly?
Yeah, I know.
There are a lot of people that are supporting him, especially in the black community, Boomer. There are a lot of people coming out now.
Why is that? Do you know?
I think it's because some of the stuff and I don't know much about this Hebrews to Negroes thing, but there are people who feel like the black Israelites or the black Jews were the original Jews. So it's a lot deeper than I know. And I think some people are supporting him because they're saying he has the right to his opinion on how his beliefs are. And
he has the right to the opinion,
right? But then
we all.
But I don't think they think it's fair that they basically made him apologize or suspended him. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I understand. I would just say he has his right to his opinion,
right,
and he has a right to free speech. There's no question about that. But with free speech and opinion come consequences.
Yes.
Yep.
And the consequences he's living through right now, the Nets are putting him through these new 6 steps,
Right.
which are basically going to be impossible for him to meet. So I think the Nets is trying to set themselves up for to get rid of him and not have to pay him. And hey, look, this is just one issue that he has created over the last 4. You guys had him up in Boston, so you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He has torpedoed and sabotaged this particular organization. And the other thing I will say about the Hebrews to Negroes movie and book is that it's false, it's fake, it's a joke, and if you don't see it that way, then you're the problem. Because to be a denier of the Holocaust is actually sickening.
It's horrendous.
It is. It's sickening to all of us, and that's why you can't support something like that.
Boomer, always great to talk to you.
All right, guys, you guys have a good week.
By the way, congratulations. Courtney was telling me you had yet another grandchild. Congratulations.
Yeah, 1 minute you're running away from Bruce Smith and Reggie White, and the next minute you're running after 3 grandchildren. I mean, Jesus, where does time go these days?
We'll talk to you next week.
All right, see you guys.